Welcome to Lesson 2, Know Your Learners. In this lesson, let's talk about what it means to know the learners in your music program and also why that matters when it comes to culturally responsive teaching. Now, you probably have access to some sort of demographic data about the students at your school. Perhaps your school website or your school district website has information about the races of the students at your school, the gender breakdown, the number of students receiving a variety of services like multilingual services, special education services, perhaps an information about the number of students receiving free and reduced lunch and other data pieces like that. All of those things that I just named are important pieces of information that you need to know. And if I were to go to your school or your school district's website and look at all that information and learn about it, does that mean that I know your learners? Of course not. Knowing your learners in your music program is so much deeper than just understanding what the demographic information is. It's important for you to know that to understand your music students, it means that you know their prior knowledge, their lived experiences, and also their interests. And by the way, that's the culture part of culturally responsive teaching. Now, culture is the common values and belief systems of a group of people. And how does a group of people have common values and belief systems? Well, they have common prior knowledge, they have common lived experiences, and they have common interests. So when it comes to understanding your students in your music program, it's important that you get down to learning about those particular things, and not just that you learn about them, but that you really understand those things, because it's going to help you understand what motivates your students, how they learn, how they prefer to work, what they believe, how they understand the world around them. And it's also important to note that understanding somebody's culture, a piece of their identity, it's multifaceted and it's nuanced. Just knowing somebody's race, somebody's culture, one part of their identity does not mean that you know everybody who also identifies with that same race or culture or identity. Knowing one person does not mean that you know it all, and that's why it's important to note here that when you are learning about your music students, it's not a one and done beginning of the year icebreaker activity, check the box, I know my students. This is work that you're going to have to engage in every time your students come to your band room or your choir classroom or your kindergarten general music room. There's never going to be a time where you stop learning about your students, because the better you are prepared to understand who they are, the better instructional decisions that you can make. And that brings me to the second point I wanted to make in this lesson, is that understanding and knowing your learners matters when it comes to culturally responsive teaching, because you can't be responsive to that which you don't know. You'll remember in our last lesson that I define culturally responsive music education as leveraging the prior knowledge, experiences, and interests of your young musicians in order to work in partnership with them to engage in relevant musical tasks that help them to construct understandings about themselves, about others, and the world around them. Now, when you understand how to partner with your students, because you understand their beliefs and their values and their interests and how they live and how their beliefs influence their thoughts and their behaviors, when you understand those things, now you are better positioned to make the instructional decisions about curriculum, about repertoire, about how you're actually going to teach a concept to them in a way that allows them to get past the surface level knowledge and really develop deeper understandings. And why that matters is because we want to help students develop their learning to learn kind of skills. Ultimately, we want students to be good learners, and those learn to learn skills transfer into any discipline, any content area. And that's our goal as music teachers, as teachers by and large, is we want our students to be independent learners, independent thinkers, and not dependent upon us or somebody else. When we help our students to be able to develop those deeper understandings through their cultural ways of understanding and thinking and believing and behaving, now we can get to those deeper levels of understanding that help them to develop those learn to learn skills, which is what we want ultimately in the first place. All right, that's it for lesson 2. Your reflection for today is, I want you to think about what is one thing that you can do to better learn the learners in your music program. And once you've got that, drop it into the comments below this video. And I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 3. Don't forget to let your music teacher friends know about this series so they can get in on this learning too.